We've had lots of sunshine recently, so I'm feeling in a real summery kind of mood, so I thought it was time to bring out the sunflowers. So as you can see, I'm working in my circle journal today, and I'm testing out this new set of 12 watercolours that I picked up from my local craft store. Now this is a very inexpensive set, and just the basic watercolour tablets. So I'm working wet on wet. I've already as you can see, taped down the edges of my page, and I've already added some water to the actual watercolour card itself, and I'm just going to drop some of the blue or the lighter blue onto the page just to create a kind of sky effect. And all I'm going to do for the next minute or so is just to keep on adding layers of the blue paint, and I'll bring in some of the darker tones of the blue as well. And I'll add some of those around the edges, and I'll try and create a little bit of depth with the watercolours, as much as you can with watercolours, because bearing in mind that when they do dry, they always dry back, and the colours always seem to go a little bit lighter than what they appear when they're wet. And as I've not pre-stretched this paper or the card, then there are some buckles in the card, and some of the water and the colour is pooling in the depressions, so that's what you can see me doing with the tissue paper, is I'm just absorbing some of those deeper, wetter areas, and it's just taking off the excess water. I'm going to leave the blue for a little while just to settle down, and now I'm going to start adding in some of the green. And because I know I'm going to be covering most of this up, I'm not going to add a lot of colour here. I just want to add a base colour, and then I can start just blending the two together. So I now know that I'm not going to get any deeper colour on this because it is too wet, so I'm going to dry it off and then start adding some more. Okay, so I think that's about as deep a colour as I want to get on this page. It is going to just be in the background, so it is kind of an underlayer. So now it's time to prepare everything for my main focal images for this art journal page. And for this, I'm using a new set of sunflower digital collage art journal resources, and these are them. So you've got the 3 pages, and I'm going to go away and cut all these little bits out and select which ones I'm going to use. So all the bits that I want to use from this set are all cut out, and now it's time to grab the Mod Podge and we'll start sticking them down onto the page. And if anybody's wondering whether I used a mechanical cutting device like the scan and cut machine to cut this out, no I didn't. I actually cut it all out by hand with a craft knife. I just have a cutting mat and my X-Acto knife, and I just sat for about, oh, it took me almost an hour to cut this sunflower out, but I like to take it steady, and it doesn't necessarily have to be cut out perfectly for it to work. So even if you can't cut out very well and you have dexterity problems, you can still use this as is. There's nothing stopping you from cutting it out with a rough border and then painting over and up to the edges. There are lots of possibilities for this journal set. I find cutting out with this kind of detail quite a cathartic exercise. I kind of shut off my higher brain function and just daydream while I'm doing it. So I'm just starting to peel off the masking tape from around the outside of the page. I'm not worried about tearing off the petals like I have done in the top left hand corner, because I'm going to cut those off anyway. They are outside the perimeter of the page, so they will get cut off with a pair of scissors. So the fact that a couple of them have torn already doesn't bother me in the slightest. Now I'm just preparing the larger sunflower image now, and what you'll see me do is I've included a larger version of that same sunflower because I didn't think it was big enough. So for me, I like my sunflowers big. So the one that was actually part of the main sunflower on the stalk, I digitally cut out the main flower head and then enlarged it, so you do have a larger version to play with. Just sticking down the last of the buzzy bees. Now when I cut these out the sheet, I did cut them off without the legs, and you won't see me do it on the video because I completely forgot to add the legs in again afterwards. So I've done it now, but at this time I didn't remember to do it, so I do apologise for that. Time to grab the scissors and trim off all the excess of those petals sticking out over the outside of the perimeter of the page. And I can now, once I've done this, I can then start working on adding in a border and also to get my main quote or my phrase added to the page. But before I do that, I'm just going to give everything one last blast with the heat tool to make sure everything is nice and dry and there's no wet glue left anywhere on the page. Sometimes when you're concentrating, you do forget that you are actually supposed to be recording what you're doing. So as you can see at the moment, I'm just off the screen a little bit as I'm cutting out my quote blocks for the journal page. Now these are the ones that are included with the kit, and there are a choice of 3 or 4 different ones that you can use. These particular quote blocks are done in such a way that you can either use them a large size, so there's plenty of room for you to have quite a nice border all the way around, or you can trim them down like I'm doing to the size that you want. So totally customizable. So to stick these 3 down, I'm just going to use the triangle collage glue stick from Ranger Ink, and I'm just going to use my little plastic mat. This is just a piece of polypropylene that I'm just going to use just as a base, just to add my glue on, and then I can just flip it over and stick it down. I also use these polypropylene sheets for page protectors, which is why you can see the paint on them as well. So just going to stick the last word down, which is obviously sunshine, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a rub, and then we're all stuck. So just time for a quick tidy up, and then we can get cracking on our next stage. So I was going to use this Vintage Photo Distress Marker to draw my borders around my word blocks, but as you can see, because I'd already used Mod Podge on there, it didn't work very well, so that went away, and out came the football pen. So a slight change of plan with the colour here, because I was going to do brown borders around the boxes and then add some brown splatters, but now I'm having to use black on the borders. So I still do try and put the brown splatters on, but once they've actually dried, they don't look quite as good. So you'll see what I do when we get to that stage. I did want to add a border around the page, so as soon as I had the football out and I'd already put the black around the borders of the boxes, I needed to tie the black in again, so which is why I started to do the border around the page with the football pen. See, it all does make sense. I don't just make it up as I'm going along. Not much anyway. Okay, so black border in place. Now it's time to add those splatters. So like I said, I do try with the Vintage Photo first, and you'll see what I mean. I'm just going to add some of the Vintage Photo marker onto my craft mat, and then just add a little bit of water, and then mix it up, and then grab my fan brush, and then just mix it together, and then add the splatters that way. So I'm just going to wipe away the excess and then grab my heat gun and then just give them a heat blast, because I know with these being water based that they are looking quite dark now, but once they're dry they will probably dry lighter, and that's exactly what happened. So I'm just staring at it now and I'm thinking, is that okay? Is it dark enough? And before you know it I think, well, okay, I'm just going to sign it and date it and then call it a day. And then I'm still looking at it and thinking, no, I still don't like it. They need to be darker. So off I go and grab my jet black Archival ink from Ranger and this stamp set called Gorgeous Grunge from Stampin' Up, and I'm going to use the top stamp there, and I'm just going to ink it up, and then I'm going to I decided to take it off the block because I didn't want an even impression, and I'm just going to go over and add those black splatters around the page, and as you can see they're standing out a lot better and I'm a lot happier with it. So I hope you're getting in the mood for summer just like I am, and you enjoyed that page. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up, share, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button just here. That's all from me. I'll see you all again real soon. Bye for now.